the ShowRatings.tv Pilot Roundtable, a Southgate Media Group podcast. I'm Kyle Tremblay.
And I'm Olivia Richards.
And we're from ShowRatings.tv, where you can rate and review all your favorite TV shows, including the new series we're talking about today,
The Flash.
According to the CW's website, after being struck by lightning, CSI investigator Barry Allen awakens from a 9-month coma to discover he has been granted the gift of super speed. Teaming up with Star Labs, Barry takes on the persona of the Flash, the fastest man alive, to protect his city. Olivia, we have a guest today. She is our social media guru at ShowRatings.tv and our resident CW expert, Sophia M Porter. Welcome back.
Thank you. It's so great to be here.
Sophia.
Sophia, your triumphant return.
I know, yeah.
Like Oliver Queen making his return to Central City in this pilot.
I was actually looking, and it said the last time we Skyped was in May. I was like, oh my gosh, it's been that long since I've been on a podcast.
So long. I've only invited you on every single one since then. But
I know.
It took Grant Gustin to get you out of the woodwork.
I mean, a lot. Grant Gustin, yeah, he'll do that to me. He has that effect on me.
All right. So before we get into The Flash, I want to ask you both about what your just general history with this is, both in terms of the source material. Obviously, The Flash is based on something, and just like comic book shows in general. Like, where are you in this genre? Sophia, you first.
Well, Kyle.
Yeah.
I am very well versed in DC comics because of my father pushing it on me when I was a child.
Oh.
I know. I say it as if it was a bad thing. It's not a bad thing.
It's your origin story.
It is. It's my origin story. I love The Flash. He's in my top 5 favorite superheroes. And so I know a lot about it. I don't know that you could call me like a genius with it all. I mean, I'm obviously a genius in other ways, but definitely. But I can handle myself pretty well. I watch Arrow. I watch Gotham, even though I kind of wish I didn't. And and yeah, I love the DC universe more than the Marvel universe, which might get me some hate. But that's kind of my history with it in terms of comics, television, and the movies. I've seen most DC movies and Marvel movies actually. But
wow. Okay, so you're like knee deep in the superhero world.
I'm there. I guess yes. I am knee deep in the superhero world.
Olivia, what about you?
I am not. I am standing in the middle. Like, she said before, like, I am not at all a genius. I kind of had to catch up with like the Marvel universe through like, watching, the Batman movies and having to catch up through like film interpretations. But I was never, like a hardcore or any kind of comic book fan.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was watching it with my roommate and she's like, oh man, that's just like the Flash. And he's like, he's so sarcastic and this is just what I knew. And I was like, all right.
Yeah.
This has some kind of background because I'm lost.
Yeah. My background is identical to Olivia's. How
are you two the podcast hosts?
Well, see, this is why we need guests. And this is why you're here.
Please make us look good.
I'm always open to being a guest. I mean, I'm here.
At least when we're talking about superhero shows, you are our superhero expert. So, on this pilot of The Flash, which premiered this week, Sophia, what did you think of the pilot?
I loved it. As if that's a surprise to anyone, honestly, because it wasn't. I remember when we talked about the CW pilots episode of the podcast, I was raving about it then, and I can safely say I'm raving about it now as well, because it's just, I don't know, I thought it was a good introduction into, for people that don't know The Flash, it was a great introduction to his character, and I laughed, which is something that in TV shows I don't laugh a lot. I don't know what it is, like, even if it's funny, I'll kind of go, it's like, that was funny, but I laughed, which is a huge deal. So I loved it. I thought it was a great pilot. There were some ridiculous points, but overall, I was very happy with the pilot.
Yeah, and you mentioned laughing, and I'm sort of the same way where I'm kind of, I guess, a little bit jaded, where I hear a joke and I think like, oh, that's funny, but I don't laugh about it. I don't know if I necessarily laughed during this pilot. I think you're a little more invested in it than I am, but the term laugh is certainly not something that you associate with superhero shows and movies. Well, not all movies, but in general, like especially like DC movies.
Oh yeah.
You don't associate laughs with that stuff. And so this is a major departure, which we're going to get into in a bit. But Olivia, what did you think?
I thought it was basically everything that I kind of expected from a CW drama, except I really enjoyed it. And I kind of liked how they wrote Barry's character of kind of being like just as lost about himself as the rest of us were. Because like he's commenting as he's learning his abilities. And even at one point he's like, how did I get abs? And like, can I keep the sweatshirt? And just
yeah,
like little awkward idiosyncrasies that they wrote into his character that just made for a very enjoyable watching and viewing experience.
Yeah, I like that we got a scene where he didn't really have a sense of how to use his super speed, and he was sort of banging into things. Like he went to the back of a trash truck or something, and I was like, oh, that's cute. Like that was funny. Like you usually don't get to see that. Like where he's just sort of like playing around. There's not a lot of playing around in DC stuff.
Well, in comparison to the Arrow, it's like you see Oliver Queen, who just doesn't ever mess up, right? He's just always like fighting and somehow winning, even if he's losing.
Yeah.
And so to compare it to the Flash, who's very goofy, it's a good. I like that contrast a lot.
Yeah, and that was so striking. And I mean, if I hadn't have read the sort of press leading up to this, that would have taken me by complete surprise.
Yeah.
Because like I mentioned, DC, I don't know much about Marvel and DC, but I do know that DC is Batman, and those Christopher Nolan Batman movies are very dark. And DC is Arrow, and Arrow is a very dark show.
Yeah.
And DC is
Flash,
Gotham, and Gotham is a very dark. Yeah. So talk to me, Sophia, about the lightness of this. Why is this show so light? Is the comic book light? Was this like a showmaking decision?
I would definitely say that the Flash is a sort of comic relief character in a lot of ways. If you watch the animated Justice League series at all, he's kind of funny. He always makes jokes and tries to make the other members of the Justice League laugh, even if they don't, and they don't a lot, because he's kind of just like the ridiculous one. So it was interesting to me that they chose to do the Flash and make it a TV show, because he is sort of the lightest of the well-known DC characters. And so I'm glad that they did it, because especially with the way Arrow is heading, it's very dark now. And I'm really glad that they chose to do Arrow as this dark show. We also need to see that DC can do light and DC can do funny, because Marvel does that all the time. Right? So he's definitely, I think he's portrayed really well and written really well, even though I've only seen one episode. It's definitely got that light effect to it that is the Flash.
Yeah, that's very interesting, and it seems to make sense. It makes even more sense now that you say that it's true to the comic book, that he's the comic relief character, because that, it's hard when you focus an entire show around him, because he's also the hero and he's also everything else. He's not playing that role within a gang or something.
I mean, he's light as DC is light, right? So I say light, LITE, because he's not actually like a light and happy character. He's just the kind of comic relief character as far as DC can go.
And there's plenty of darkness in this pilot. Like this is this is all sort of relative to what we're kind of expecting from superhero shows now. Especially like Gotham, I mean, this premiered like a week or two after Gotham, and you can really see a difference in the worlds of these two shows, even though they're both DC shows.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Olivia, as someone who like me is coming from a background of non-informed zero experience. What does this show offer to someone who is just utterly disinterested in comic books?
I think there's that the relatability with the characters. Seeing him kind of have to learn his abilities and not being so sure of himself and meeting opposition from the other side. Like obviously when he was talking to the detective, he was like talking about how he knows the guy is still alive, and Martin's character, and like can control the weather, and you're seeing people like, kind of not understanding where he's coming from. So I think it's really easy to get emotionally invested in these characters, even if you don't have a background with any of them and you're kind of seeing this new material for the first time.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Did you ever try out Arrow? Did you ever watch any of that?
I've never seen Arrow. No, I haven't.
Okay, interesting. I was wondering, what about like Agents of Shield or Gotham or any of those other superhero shows?
Yes, I've seen Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and I just watched the pilot of Gotham recently. So yeah, I definitely, when we were talking about the light tone of the show, I think that's another kind of grabbing factor within like the heaviness of some of these dramas. Because when you think you're going to sit down and watch a drama, like you expect it to be a little bit more emotionally and just kind of plot heavy, especially within this universe. But I think this offers something that's not going to overwhelm the audience.
Yeah, definitely. Speaking of plot, there was an episode-specific story here. It wasn't just his origin story. There was a blonde gentleman who could create tornadoes. Sophia, is that a character that exists in the comics?
What is his name? Martin? Is it?
I don't know.
Is it? Oh, hang on.
My
Hang on,
notes
I
are
know.
etched.
I can't. I don't want to say it wrong. Otherwise, I don't want to. I
You'll
don't
be
want
shunned by
to
the
lead
DC
them
community.
wrong because I'm not. Like I said, I would not be a comic genius. I haven't read all of the comic books. What was his name? Is it Martin the Flash? Is that it? Martin. Because the way he said it was either Martin or Martin, and it's a very Michigan accent. I don't know. Hang on, the Flash pilot, is that?
Are you live? Googling
I'm
on a
absolutely
podcast?
googling
We
it because
have
I need to
real
know.
Okay, hold on. We need theme music here
We can-
for a new segment. Sophia Googles facts. So
Sophia doesn't want things to get things wrong. That's my problem. I don't want to be.
you really need to free yourself, because listening back to this podcast, Olivia and I mispronounce like half the actors' names that we talk
Do
about.
you really?
Yeah.
Do you really?
We're a disaster in terms of pronouncing actors' names, and we just plow through. We don't even care.
No, we just
I
crap all over it. It's beautiful.
I truly cannot find it.
This is shocking. How could we have a failure in your first Google segment?
We can. You know what we can do? We can edit this part out.
We're not
Kyle.
at. No, this is staying.
No.
This is 100%. This is gold. I'm so happy that you have failed to Google something on our podcast.
I can't find anything. It doesn't. Okay, hang on. Yeah, go ahead.
What's funny is I didn't ask you the guy's name. I just asked if he existed in the comics, and now you've put this task upon yourself to determine his name.
I know.
It was really confusing to listen to in the pilot because everyone like pronounced it like it had a D in it, like Martin. I was like,
Martin.
what is his name? I'm so confused.
Martin. That's why I'm looking. Are you guys all? You all should look. That's what you should.
I'm Googling too.
I'm actually Yeah, I'm on.
Yeah. Oh, good. This is great.
This is some good. This is some.
This is.
Okay, so here's the deal.
Yeah. Please.
Wait.
No.
Wait. We are absolutely editing this out. I can't do it.
This isn't getting edited out at all. His name is Clyde Martin. M-A-R.
Martin. Okay, sorry. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
I have solved the Google mystery.
Martin. Okay,
Martin.
See, okay, so I was right. It is Martin.
Thanks.
Okay, so
well, 5 minutes. Okay, go.
Okay, so yes, okay. Oh, I haven't read this in so long. Okay, so yes, he is a part of the DC universe. He's also known as the Weather Wizard, and the weather, which kind of sucks.
Why wasn't he called the Weather Wizard on the show?
But that's Mark, not Clyde. So I don't know, because his brother is Clyde, and so they swapped it out.
So
is what happened.
So our friend Clyde here is the brother of the Weather Wizard?
But is the Weather Wizard. So there are two. Okay, so do you remember how in the beginning of the episode they talk about the Martin brothers, right?
No, but...
And then apparently they die in the helicopter crash.
Mm-hmm.
Clyde doesn't die and gets struck by lightning, and Clyde Martin becomes the Weather Wizard, except that in the comic books it's his brother Mark. That's why I was confused.
I see. So this is like some kind of alternate...
Well, yeah, it's all kind of... I mean, they have to tweak things, right? But the thing is, the Weather Wizard is part of the Rogues, which are kind of major villains in the Flash's kind of world. So I guess that's why. I haven't read, yeah. So
okay.
There's that.
There's that.
There's that. So yes, that's why I was confused, is that it's Mark, not Clyde, in the comic books.
Gotcha.
But it's Clyde in the show.
Are you like Olivia? Are you invested in any of like the long-term storytelling of this show? We had the Weather Wizard plot, as we've now learned,
The Weather Wizard.
which I will call him from now on.
I'm ready. Yeah, you're already hooking me right now.
Yeah.
I'm hooked.
But obviously,
Yeah,
they
read the comics, guys.
no,
Just saying.
they've set up um some season-long stories, like specifically regarding the what is his name, Dr. Harrison Wells character.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Olivia, are you invested in any of that stuff, or are you just watching this as sort of a fun week-to-week kind of deal?
Probably the latter for the most part.
Yes.
Well,
Honesty.
I mean, after like the last like 2 minutes of the show, I was very interested because like obviously you had the doctor like stand up out of his
Yeah.
wheelchair, like he's up to something, and of course like I'm not in the universe and or like the DC universe, like I'm in the universe, but
Yeah.
like I do want to see where that goes, and I want to see like what the show does with this, like because obviously you have like the light atmosphere of the show, but you also have this heavy plot material, so I want to see how those two play against each other.
Hmm.
And I think that's what's kind of keeping me, but it is just kind of like a fun thing to watch on a week-to-week basis.
Yeah, I think my reaction literally was like, "Oh, that's interesting. like something's gonna. He's up to something, Like that was mine as well. But someone informed me that Dr. Harrison Wells is not a character that exists in the comics. That someone was Sophia Porter.
Yes.
And so I want to ask her about that right now.
Yeah, he doesn't exist in the comics, which
Okay.
I'm really glad that they did, because as someone who obviously did not read the comics enough as a child,
Yeah.
but I didn't recognize him, and so that was interesting to me, and it's fun because those people that have read the comics religiously, right, and know them back and forth, also don't know who this character is. And so it kind of equals the playing field a little bit for DC fan people. I'm trying to be gender neutral. DC fan
Smart.
people and just the Flash fan people, right? And so
Yeah.
that's really cool. But those with the kind of knowledge behind them of the comic books can guess a little more as to who he is, which is kind of fun. But I'm interested to hear your guys' theories, even though you've only seen the first episode, because it's cool. I like it that they did that. Harrison Wells doesn't exist, and he is new to the DC universe as of Tuesday night.
Yeah, and I know my theory based on everything I was reading on Twitter, because at some point I did read that he didn't exist, and I saw a lot of people hypothesizing on who he is.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to me like it would be very fun if he was Barry Allen from the future. That Barry Allen returned back and is using like a fake name or something, and has time traveled back from the past. And so that's my completely uninformed and almost certainly wrong theory about who he is.
I wouldn't say it's wrong. I mean, we don't know that it's wrong. There are a lot of theories, and that's one of the major theories.
Good.
I haven't really come up with any theories myself. I was considering that he is a villain from the future, who is actually part of the comic book. I thought one of my theories is that he's Professor Zoom, which is Eddie Thawne, who is also known as a Reverse Flash. And he is he's a major villain that, just like really ruins Barry Allen's life.
Oh, okay.
But
well, listen, you don't have to explain to Olivia and I who Professor Zoom is. We are totally caught up on all of this.
Completely clueless.
I mean, I'm trying not to give anything away in case it is Professor
No
Zoom. But
spoilers,
essentially, he's a supervillain, and he is a huge foil to Barry Allen. And the question is whether or not, that is who Harrison Wells is. If he is a bad guy, if he is a good guy who is trying to protect Barry, we don't know anything. And I kind of love that. I'm like, hell yeah, let me give it to me. I also liked his Braille room. That was cool. That was awesome. That was a good room.
That was a good room. Olivia, did you have any idea what was happening when the Green Arrow showed up at the end of this episode?
I have no idea. My roommate got really excited. She was walking. She's like, I love him so much. Oh my God, he's fantastic. Oh my. And she was like freaking out. I'm just sitting there like, all right, this is happening.
He's great. He's so wonderful.
That is the lead of the show Arrow. Oh,
that is
Oliver Queen.
And Oliver Queen.
Yeah. Which, Sophia, I'm not gonna give you like a 5-minute platform to talk about your love of Grant Gustin, because this podcast
Probably a good thing.
this podcast has probably gone on just about long enough. But
No, we wasted too much time looking up who Clyde Martin was.
That's perfect. It's a perfect use of podcast time. Just give me a real quick like tail of the tape kind of breakdown. Grant Gustin versus Stephen Amell from Arrow.
Oh God, why would you?
Listen, I asked the tough questions.
You're not asking me to compare them, are you?
I'm asking you which one you like more. I'm asking the hard-hitting questions here.
That is the hard-hitting question. Okay. Well, Stephen Amell has a much better body.
Shots fired.
That is no. I mean, really.
Even after considering the coma body that Barry Allen.
I'm okay, but when he put on that little like red pantsuit, he looked so oddly proportional. Like I was like, what is wrong? He looks like a rectangle with little skinny legs. And I felt so bad because I love Grant Gustin. Like I love him. I think he's so pretty and wonderful, and he has a wonderful voice. But I think Barry Allen is more similar to who I am as a person. So it's hard because...
You're a rectangle with skinny legs?
I am a rectangle with skinny legs. No, I mean personality-wise.
Sure.
Oliver makes a lot more tough decisions.
Mm-hmm.
He makes a lot tougher decisions as far as being the protector of Starling City.
Sure.
And I think that the Flash... We'll see. We'll see how... I think it's too early to tell who I like more. Because when Oliver showed up, maybe I teared up a little bit because I love Oliver. But also I knew he was coming because I watched I watched Arrow before I watched The Flash. I don't know why I did that,
right.
But I did.
Because Grant Gustin made a payback cameo.
A brief cameo.
A brief cameo in Arrow. So they had cameos in each of the shows. Very cute CW kind of thing to do.
Totally.
Everyone shows up in everyone else's shows. All right, well, that concludes a very lively discussion of this.
Wait, I have an interesting tidbit of information, though.
Sure.
Okay, I wanted to share this from the beginning, but I didn't know when a good time was. So, you guys know the father of Barry Allen?
Yes.
The one that's in prison. So, he was cast as the Flash way back when. So he played the Flash. Yes.
Oh, on the what was it, like a short-lived like 90s show?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, the short-lived 90s show. He was the Flash. So John Wesley Shipp played the Flash and is now the Flash's father. So that's just a cool tidbit of this is why you bring me around, you guys.
Well, we just finished our first edition of the segment, Sophia's Trivia Corner. Very excited. You've brought 2 new segments to the podcast.
Hey, guess you're gonna have to bring me back.
Oh, of course. You're gonna be talking about Jane the Virgin next week. Don't think you're getting out of that.
Oh God. Here we go.
All right. So in between your podcast appearances, Sophia, how can people keep up with you?
You can keep up with me on Twitter. My handle is Sophia M Porter. I tend to respond most of the time. And that's the best way to reach me is through Twitter. Send me a line and I'll be like, hey.
Yeah, cool. And we forgot real quick, Olivia, thumbs up or thumbs down on The Flash?
I'm going to give it a thumbs up. I definitely want to see where the show's going to go.
Sophia?
Oh God, thumbs up.
Shocker. And a thumbs up from me. We're all in agreement. Our first like clean sweep positive pilot review of the season. Always feels good.
Thank God it had to happen.
It had to happen.
It was getting dismal. It was getting really dismal.
The last one we recorded was Stalker, so this is a nice change.
Yeah.
All right, so that concludes this episode of the ShowRatings.tv Pilot Roundtable. We invite you to check out this and other Southgate Media Group podcasts at southgatemediagroup.com and to read about, rate, and discuss all your favorite shows at ShowRatings.tv. You can follow me on Twitter at KyleLovesTV, Olivia at RichardsOlivia, and ShowRatings at ShowRatingsTV. Until next time, thanks for listening.
If you would like to donate to help pay for this and other Southgate Media Group podcasts, simply go to our website, southgatemediagroup.com, and click on the donate button. It can be as little as $1 or, well, as much as you want. Help keep this fun going by supporting this and our other shows. Thanks again for listening, everyone. You're the best fans in the world.